So my name is Christophe Dunon. I'm CEO of Réalise, and our social enterprise tackled a very concrete problem that in this country, 50% of the unemployed persons have no vocational training diploma and a very hard time to find a job. We are a country in which the vocational training system is well developed, worldwide, well known, and if you don't have such a diploma, it's very hard to find a job. So the way we exist, the way we are here, our why is to try to solve this particular problem. It's a matter of something like 60 or 70,000 persons in our country that have the unemployed problem, linked with the lack of vocational training diploma. We are tackling the problem of persons that do have skills. They are good workers. They have skills and motivation, but they don't have the diploma. And all the enterprises in the recruitment process always ask, do you have such a diploma in the hiring process? And so most of those persons are let on the side, even if they could do a very good job. So the way we tackle that since 1984, and we do it in a very concrete manner. We are what we call a work integration social enterprise, and we have developed activities, economic activities in different fields. We do gardening. We are in industry, in the watch industry sector. We are in the logistic. We have a cleaning departments and the laundry. So we have different departments in which we put people at work, and they work with us between 3 to 6 months. And during this period of time, we will be able with them to see what are their skills. We can train them to improve some skills. We have many foreigners, so they need to be trained in French to learn to improve their French. So they work with us, and after a few months, if we see that they are good skills for companies, we will contact ourselves, the companies, and we will propose. It's like we will sell those persons to the companies in the Geneva area. Because many times good workers don't have skills to find a job. They have a hard time to sell themselves. You know, they are good workers, but they don't know how to look for a job. They don't know how to promote themselves. So we help them very precisely, you know, to find those opportunities. And we have job coaches in Réalise that will directly contact enterprises to look if they need somebody like them. So it's very concrete. We developed that since quite a long time. Today we do train roughly 500 persons per year. And the way we are financed is also quite simple. Half of the budget is covered by training fees, which is mostly paid by public services, and half of the budget is financed through our direct economic activities. When we do training for a customer, we charge like a company. When we work for the watch industry, we charge our services, etc., etc. So every year we charge. Our budget is roughly $10 million US today, and roughly 5 million is we generate directly 5 million through our direct economic activities, and the rest is paid by the training and direct placement fees. So so that's our basic activity. On the side of that, we do belong to a large network of social enterprises doing the same thing. We started in the 80s, and nobody was doing that, and we were one of the first organizations in Switzerland. And through the time, we put our colleagues we develop a network of work integration social enterprise to exchange good practices, to to also to get better recognition from the government. And also, since a few years now, we develop broader activity in the aligned with the idea of social and solidarity economy. And and today, to say a few words about the perspective, since 2 years, we are developing, we are trying to develop progressively project in other countries. We want to share our experience, and this SELLA project is one of the opportunities, but we want to share all what we did since the 35 years with other organizations, so they can, directly pick up our best practices and trying to adapt to the local realities. It could be in Armenia, it could be in any country of the world. So that's the idea is to share that. So many countries facing the same problem of work integration can learn or can pick up good ideas of what we developed through the years. All this background has been developed because it's been a trial and error process, very long trial and error process. So if you can, in Armenia, if you can avoid to make all the mistakes we made in Switzerland, you can save time. So that's the philosophy of Réalise so far. So that's in a few words to repeat what we're doing. I'm waiting for your questions.
Great. Let me come back on screen for a minute. Thank you very much for that. In Armenia, we like to make our own mistakes, so but obviously we'll learn from you and then not repeat the ones that you made at least. I have a few questions. First, one quick question just to clarify, and then I'll see if there are questions in the room. We also have a participant online, so if you have any questions, this is the participant online, please write them in the chat group or let us know that you want to ask a question. Christophe, you mentioned the network of work-integrated social enterprises. Just for me to understand, is this a network in Switzerland only? This is not the Après-G that we discussed during our Skype call? Or is it the same?
No, it's not the same. Actually, there are in our country there are two types of networks. Some networks are specialized networks. So there's a specialized networks of work integration social enterprise, and these networks belongs to larger networks that's sum up, that put together social enterprises that are working in other fields. For instance, social organization working in agriculture, in finance. It looks like there's a little problem. Do you hear me?
Yes, just a second.
Okay. I'm back to you.
No, we hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was saying that our network, the network of what we call the social and solidarity economy, sum up sub-networks, specialized networks. There's a network in local agriculture and organic agriculture. There's not a network in adult training. There's a network in sustainable finance. So we are in the network of work integration social enterprise, which belongs to a larger network of social enterprise. Okay.
But this is a Switzerland-specific network, or is it a larger European network? That was
in most of the country in Europe, you will have it's like two layers networks, specialized network and broader network of social and solidarity economy organization.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions in the room at the moment? Yeah. If you want to ask a question, maybe you can come a little bit closer so that Christophe can hear you.
Hello, I'm Hamo.
Hello.
A question about Switzerland, actually. Can I know how much is the unemployment rate right now, actually, in Switzerland?
Yeah, the unemployment rate is it's a good question, and my country has a particular way to sum up the unemployed person. According to the ILO statistic, we are depends of the places, depends of the cities. We are between 3, 4 to 8, 10%. But the public statistics are much lower. Our government has a particular way to count unemployed, and this particular way makes statistics quite lower. With official statistics say it's between 3 and 5%, but the reality is almost the double. But it's still rather low according to we are in the average of other European countries having, let's say, an average a rate which is not very high. We are not Greece. We are not, obviously we are not Greece. We are close to northern country, Germany, Austria, Norway, Sweden. We are roughly. Why do we have that? It's a long story, but in a few words, that our government doesn't count all the person on the social welfare that are also looking for a job. They sum up only the person that benefits to the unemployment insurance, and after 2 years you are out of you benefit unemployment insurance only for 2 years. So then you are out, but you're still a job seeker.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
And if there is a possibility for some unemployment to find a work with the help of government, if there is any help.
Yeah, there are large programs. Actually, the training which is developed by Réalise Réalise is a partner of the government. The unemployed service of the government mandates and finance Réalise to give training and support to find a job. So the government is using social enterprise like us to give training to persons.
That's a good point, that the government actually cooperates with you.
It is. It's essential. Let's make it clear. There's no way to be able to do our job without the fees paid by either the government or philanthropists. You can't, as a social enterprise, you can't sustain all the costs. Our economic activities today, I mentioned, cover 50% of our cost, which is already quite good. But it's impossible to be self-financed. So in the countries, I don't know exactly the situation in Armenia. I've been in Yerevan 2 years ago, but it was a very short period of time. If the government or any other private organization is not willing to finance the training, it's going to be very hard to develop such a facility for your people in Armenia.
Christophe, I actually have a couple of questions on your work with the government. So the first question is, you said you train around 500 people a year now, and that covers half your budget, the payment of the government. Are you filling the government's demand in this area, or are you limited by your capacity or your resources, and the government actually wants you to train more people every year, but you are not able to fill that demand? That's my first question.
We are working only in Geneva. We choose not to develop in other cities, but to make available all our experience to other organizations. So it's been a strategic choice of Réalise since many years. So today we are only in Geneva, and in Geneva we do cover the needs for, let's say, the blue collars, the workers. We do feel pretty much the needs, and every year we will review with the government how many person we will train in the different fields, because the economic system is changing, and with the digitalization, some jobs are disappearing. For instance, the laundry used to be we used to have in Geneva a lot of laundries in hostel, in hotels, in different facilities for elders, etc. And now big automatic laundries developed, industrial laundries developed, and we lost a lot of jobs. So we are, for instance, diminishing every year the number of persons we train in the laundry, and we developed since last year a program in the digital sector. So we are all the time discussing the numbers of persons we do train, and also in which field, economic field we do train them to make sure that it is aligned with the needs of the enterprises.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question about working with the government is, what are the challenges that you face as an organization that is working with the government? What is it on the government side that can be a challenge for you? And on the government side, what are the benefits of working with an organization like you?
Well, I will start by the second part of your question. I think the need to be very agile, to be very flexible, to be very innovative in order to fit all the times with the economic the evolution of the enterprises. There's no way that a public service will be able to do that. All the time we have to change, we have to move, we have to develop a new program, new departments, and I think, and our experience since 30 years is that only a private organization like a social enterprise has the agility, has the spirit to move it and the capacity to do that. So, and I think that in Geneva and in my country in general, the government is quite clear that the government should do only few things, and all what can be done by private organization should be done by private organization, because we are more efficient, more innovative, etc. So there's this general perspective which is quite positive. The challenge for us today is that we used to be the first one in Geneva. When you start with a new, we were quite innovative in the 80s, but fortunately, a lot of other social enterprise grew up, were born in the last year. So the competition today between social organization is quite strong. So it's a good thing, because we need to be very creative and to be the best, and to stay the best in Geneva. But still, being a large organization today, we have roughly 100% on the payroll. So it's we're a big organization. The challenge, one of the main challenge, is to be flexible enough to stay agile with so many persons, to be able to adapt all the time our activities, and so it's a major challenge for us at the moment. But what I can say on the top of that, it's fortunately so far, I cross fingers that we have had very good relation with the government. We are partners. We don't compete. We are partners, and through the years, the government and the Department of Social Affairs and Unemployment, we developed a good cooperation. We see each other at least once a year, sometimes many more times, to discuss what are the needs, how many persons should be trained, what are the evolution of the economic needs, in which field shall we train persons, and so it's a good partnership we've been able to develop through the years. But also it's a work. It's a clear strategy from Réalise to have a very close partnership, and for sure if your government doesn't want to understand anything with those questions, it's going to be very hard to develop such a program in Armenia, unless you can finance it with private funds and do it totally on the side of public policy. But the ideal system is, and I know that you have a new government since let's say 1 year. If your government understands that cooperation with social enterprises, it could be in any fields, in tourism, in agriculture, in vocational training. If your government understands this opportunity, there could be a very good match between what the government has to do and what social enterprises can do with efficiency.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the objectives that we have with this program, to also talk to the government and to show government examples from other countries like Switzerland, like your example, so that we can potentially do more of the same or some of the same in Armenia as well. Thank you for that answer. Questions in the audience? We have 2 questions. Angela, you want to come closer first?
Hello. My question is, a little bit earlier you mentioned that you've had a period of trial and error before you finally found the right formula. I read the document, but I don't know if I necessarily saw anything about that process. So I was wondering, could you give us an example of what kind of transformations you ended up going through before you found the one that worked best for you?
Well, it's a large question. You know, how to summarize. You know, we had to develop at the same time the training programs and the coaching program for the trainees and the management of the social enterprise. When we started 35 years ago, we had what we call in French a white page. Nobody know how do you manage that? Is it going to work or not? How do you work with the government? What kind of training? What kind of process the trainees have to pass through? So the story of Réalise is a very long, large story of thousands of small mistakes to adapt through time. And also, 30 years ago, the labor market was much more accessible. And for instance, somebody who would work with us for 6 months, with a very basic training, it was okay, it was enough. Today, the labor market is much tougher. The expectation on skills, hard skills and soft skills, is much higher. So we had to develop, we had to enrich all the process. We give technical training, we give language training, we give basic, we give coaching, etc. We had to develop a large process, and maybe one big mistake that we passed through like 20 years ago already, but I know that it's an issue in the social enterprise, is that we are being a social enterprise. We are first of all an enterprise, and our goal is social, but we shall think, act, organize, manage Réalise like a business. The main difference is that at the end, nobody would put money in the pocket because we are non-profit. The money is invested in the goals of the organization. But it doesn't mean that we have social values. We have the social mission that we shall work like social workers. We have to take sometimes tough decision. If there is one department which is not good enough, or a department that trains person in a field where there's no more jobs, we have to cut it down, and sometimes to fire the person. If some workers are not good enough, we have to get rid of them and to hire other problems. I say that because I've been working in the NGO world for a while, and I know that sometimes a lot of persons think that if we are a social enterprise, we have to keep everybody, we have to give an opportunity to everybody. We can't expect not, I don't talk about the trainees. We can't expect from the professional to be as competitive than we would in a regular business. I think it's the opposite. We shall hire the best workers, the best trainers, and to do the best job, and to really think like a private company, but just with the idea that we don't do that. Our motivation is not to get to get rich. Our motivation is to have a large and positive impact on the society.
I think that's a very good point, Christoph, very relevant to Armenia, that social enterprises cannot afford to be less efficient than commercial businesses. In fact, they have to try to be even more efficient. We have another question in the room.
Hello, I am interested. Do you involve persons with mental disorders in the list of your beneficiaries? And if yes,
I don't understand. Who do we involve? Can you repeat?
Persons with mental disorders or another disabilities. And if yes, please tell a little more, a little bit from your experience.
Okay. Thank you. Today, in my country, there is a quite clear divide between the person with a long-term disability, could be mental illness or physical mental disability or physical disability, that can work into enterprises, but with adapted jobs. So we do separate very clearly the idea of adapting some jobs for disabled and adapting persons unemployed to the needs of the enterprises. It's not the same job. So in Réalise, we don't, we are not focused. We don't put at work person that have either mental or physical disability. Other colleagues, other social enterprises are tackling this problem. So we do really. It's also something we learn through the time, that to be very precise on what we do, what is the target, and not having at the same time person with disabilities, unemployed, and you know, we are very clear with Réalise. We focus only on unemployed person with a clear, at least, with whom we think they have a chance to find a job. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you. My next question, Christoph, is the following. So some of your, or in fact most of your clients on the business side are other businesses. And for this business, for these contracts, you compete with regular commercial companies. Do you find that as a social enterprise, you have an advantage over the other commercial companies when you are bidding for these contracts? Or do your clients care more about price and quality and not about social impact?
That's another very good question. It is changing a bit. Historically, we would not expect any difference for our clients between to be a social enterprise, and it means that we would not expect any, let's say, anybody would be able to pay more. Anybody would be okay with a lower quality. We will always think that we shall give the same price and the same quality that's a commercial business. because sometimes putting on the front that we are a social enterprise would have been a bad image. Sometimes we think that unemployed person are a bad person, have no skills at all, or there's like a bad visions. So we don't communicate a lot. If you go on our website, you will see a reference of being a societal enterprise, but it's not on the first image. We will say we do training and direct placement. So, but it's changing. Fortunately, with the development of economic and ecological considerations, more and more enterprises understand that we can't continue like that. We can't continue for a company not having any preoccupation in terms of social inclusion or environmental impact. So we can see more and more clients that wants to work with us because we are a social enterprise. But it's rather new, and it's not. It's a trend. I'm quite optimistic. I hope it's going to develop, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I can't tell you, if it's going to be 50% of our clients within 2 years. I don't know. So far, it could be maybe 1/3 of our clients that have this kind of preoccupation, and we see more and more clients coming to us and wants to work with us because we are a social enterprise. I don't know the situation in Armenia, but you understand that within the when we started in the 80s, since the 2010, never we would expect any advantage being a social enterprise. It's been tough because sometimes we had to compete very, very hard, compete with the price, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions in the room? I have a couple of more. So we talk a lot with social enterprises in Armenia about scaling, how to increase impact, how to increase business operations. But you mentioned that you've taken a strategic decision to stay within Geneva. Could you please tell us what were the considerations, why you made that decision, what are the advantages of limiting yourself to Geneva, and maybe what are some of the opportunities that you're giving up because of it?
It's another excellent question. My country is a federation of states. It means that in Switzerland, you have 22 states with a large autonomy. So even if my country is very small, it's divided in 23 called cantons, small states. It's like the US, but in much smaller scale. But still, every state has a large autonomy in the way it organizes social welfare, unemployment policy, training policy, etc., etc. On the top of that, we do speak 3 languages in my country: French, German, and Italian. Even if Italian is a small part. So trying to replicate Réalise in other states of Switzerland would mean a very large work to adapt the model to the local situation. It could be maybe it's not as difficult as trying to replicate in other countries, but it's a large gap. To go on the German side of the country means translating everything, blah blah blah. And so we did choose not to replicate. And also one point is it's very concrete is myself. I'm not interested in the copy paste activity. I'm interested in developing an innovative system and put my energy and the energy of my creativity in improving the model instead of spending most of my time fighting to replicate Réalise in other places and starting to renegotiate with the local authorities and blah blah blah. So we did choose to stay in Geneva, and so we are, but to be very open with all our activities and all what we learned and all the mistakes we made through the times. And being a lecturer at the university since 25 years, I give classes on social integration, vocational training, management of social enterprises, blah, blah, blah. So a way of disseminating the experience passes through all the classes we done. We give also conferences, and through the network we mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, this network of social work integration, social enterprise, we do a lot of best practice exchanges. So our impact hasn't been through the replication of Réalise, but through the dissemination of ideas through the network, with a lot of persons that picked up some ideas of Réalise and they did implement the ideas where they are working at the moment. And through the years, I never thought that it could be we could have a large impact. But with the Ashoka work, when I've been in the process of to become an Ashoka fellow, I had to analyze all the impact through the years of Réalise, and I didn't realize how much other organization we did inspire through time. And so we decided to continue with this strategy, but now we would like, it's a future project to improve our capacity of disseminating the ideas. We want to create a digital platform with all the training programs and the coaching programs. So person from other countries like Armenia could copy all the program, all the best practices, and to help other organizations to find the information. Today, unless you follow such a webinar, unless you follow my classes at the university, unless you come in Geneva and visit us, you can't really get the details of what we do. So that's what we want to do in the future, but it's a project.
Okay, thank you again. Any other questions that have come up? One more question from Hambo, and then maybe a wrap-up question from me.
And what do you think? Could you work if you had a high level of unemployment for about 20%? And if the government couldn't help you, or with government help, but with that high level of unemployment, because we have in Armenia about 20% of unemployment. So it is disgusting that could we do the same thing, or how it could it work in Armenia or not, or it is impossible with this situation?
Well, we should discuss that in details. The question, I think, in the little I understand with your country, is that at the end of a training program like Réalise, if there are no job opportunities, it doesn't make much sense to develop a solution like Réalise. In Switzerland, we have a very dynamic economy that really needs persons. It's more a question of finding the good person for the good job, and sometimes just give some training, some vocational training so the person can fit the job. If there are no jobs at all, the question might be more: how do we develop businesses? And the businesses will hire person through the time, because so what I would suggest, but I think you have a clear idea, is to identify where are the domains, where are the job opportunities. And we've discussed that we have trained at the moment we have a trainee from the French University of Yerevan. She's in Geneva. We've discussed that. For instance, our digital training program which is quite new, would give more opportunities for a person in your country than training person in the gardening, because I don't think there's a gardening labor market. Like in the laundry, if there's no large laundries, there's no labor market in the laundry sector. So the first thing is to analyze where are job opportunities. It may be, and just to make sure that you work with unemployed that are not very far from those opportunities, because we work with, you understand, our trainings are, the length is between 3 to 6 months. So between 3 to 6 months is you can learn how to be a decent gardener. You can't read to be an engineer in whatever, high level industry. So according to how your economy is developing, I've heard that the trainee that was with us last year, she's now working in the tourism business in Armenia. It looks like tourism is developing in Armenia. So there might be, new opportunities in the person to clean rooms, to cook, or to all in the services, in the drivers, and blah blah blah. So, but it should be all the activities of a work integration social enterprise should be really plugged with the labor market. Did I answer to your question?
Yeah, I think that was quite clear. Thank you. So probably the last question from us today. You mentioned when we spoke, and you mentioned today as well, back in 1984 when Réalise started, when this whole idea was being developed. Many people didn't believe that it's possible. And today also in Armenia and around the world, we have many young social entrepreneurs who have ideas, but lots of people around them who doubt that this can become a reality. So what is the advice that you would have based on your experience to these entrepreneurs out there who have ideas, but they have people around them doubting? What is the advice you would give them?
I would say don't fear to how can I translate that? When you come up with innovative ideas, most of the person thinks you are crazy. So don't fear. If person thinks you're crazy in your activities, it could be positive. I mean, don't expect to have directly a large support. We had we never stopped. We went on working, and even if a lot of person who had large doubts would say, "Chris, you're crazy. It's impossible. Social enterprise will never work." You have to live with that and continue your way and try to make those doubts just. We say in French, it's like the water on the deck. It should. It's hard to translate that. Don't let those questions hurt you, and continue. I'm convinced that on the international level, social enterprises are much more able to fit with the SDGs than any traditional business. So social enterprises is not only a solution maybe to help to train person in the vocational training system, or to give opportunity to disabled, or to help farmers to develop new activities. It's a model. It's the more sustainable model of enterprise that exists through the world. So we are the future in all the fields. Tomorrow's economy should be dominated with social enterprises, or will be not. The enter system will not be sustainable. That's my vision. So if person don't understand, don't believe you, you can also show them examples worldwide. We use a lot of example. Okay, you think it's impossible, but look what's going on in Switzerland, what's going on in the United States, what's going on in many other countries. it's a general movement. And so if it does appear in so many countries, it means that it should be something taken seriously.
Thank you very, very much, Christophe. As you know, probably as part of the SELLA program, we have 10 social enterprises selected. The program is going to close in a month. So we have one more webinar to go, but your organization is the one that is most closely engaged with Armenia, because you have Armenian partners, you have Armenian trainees who come every year to your organization from the French University in Armenia. So thank you very much for being a part of our program and for being engaged with Armenia in general. I look forward to working with you personally, and I look forward to more involvement from your side, from Réalise, in the social entrepreneurship scene in Armenia. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you to you, and I hope that we can develop the exchanges, because we are really open. And as you mentioned, we had this track record of a few years with the link with Armenia. So if we can do more, and if there are opportunities for some of you to come and visit us, the doors are open, and maybe I would come back to Armenia in the next years and have more time to share our experiences with you. So I'm looking forward to develop those exchanges, and good luck with you in all your projects.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.